Cheech and motherfucking Chong were on Bill Maher's podcast. And, you know, I love these guys so much. And I grew up with them, and my dad grew up with them. And they're still out there kicking. And I think that says something about weed that's so crazy because, you know, weed is so demonized as this like evil thing. But you look at the people who smoke a lot of weed and they seem to be doing really well in old age. Willie Nelson is another great example of that. Mick Jagger and Keith Richards, those fucking druggies. Look at them. They're still out touring, you know? So that's one of the things that struck me as I was watching this, that it's like, wow, look at Cheech and Chong. And Bill Maher starts, to his credit, by giving them a shout out for being the OGs, because they were like pro weed in a very public way before it was really safe to be pro weed in a public way. I'll try not to spend too long.
And we're geeks bearing gifts.
Me too, and I'm nervous it will live up to the approval of the gods. But you know, I stand on your shoulders in many ways. As a comedian of some years, who has, among my bag of tricks, certainly traded on
comedian or
my
not
reputation for enjoying marijuana.
This is good for you.
A lot, and had a zillion lines and jokes that worked because that was, but that all came from you. You guys did that first. You did it best. You are the OGs of that.
No extra charge.
So they get into a lot of politics here. And the first thing they talk about is, I don't know if you remember this, but a few years ago, Chong was arrested by the Bush administration for selling bongs on the internet. And he talks a little bit about that, but as you'll see later in the conversation, you know, I think these guys are just like any liberal, kind of walled into their own little bubble. So they kind of don't recognize their own hypocrisy later in the conversation.
Because I have zero recollection. But
I got out of jail.
Maybe they're right about that with the pot.
I got out of jail.
Memory.
I missed it at the beginning of the clip, but Cheech held up Chong's mugshot, and he's like, "This is a dangerous man."
It was just one moment, you know.
And why did you go? You were selling bongs or some shit?
No, I went in because I was
Selling
my
bongs.
company was selling bongs.
See, I just don't think that would happen today.
You don't know. The right DA and the right...
We've come a long way. In Albuquerque, New Mexico, there are dispensaries on every goddamn corner. I think there's more dispensaries per capita in Albuquerque, New Mexico than in Los Angeles.
Town, it can happen.
Really?
Yeah, that's what it was.
Maybe I'm being sanguine about it, but like...
No, they had a hit on me.
A hit?
The Bush family.
To kill you?
No, he was invading Iraq, and so they needed some sort of hippie bullshit.
Wag the dog.
Yeah. And so they
wanted to wag the dog.
So they attacked me, and they sent...
These days, our wars are much more noble. We're trying to arm proxies to fire missiles into Russia. A lot of people don't realize this, not to take a complete sidebar, but Ukrainistan, like we did the proxy thing with Russia in the 80s with the Taliban. Remember how that ended up? People have such short memories.
That's on 9/11.
Really?
They expected
on
a big
9/11
protest, you know.
Yeah.
And the one guy showed up with a sign saying "Free marijuana."
Free marijuana. One guy.
Was he giving it away?
No, that's why.
That's a brilliant joke, actually.
No one figured that one out.
That's genius. That's why it's so good.
Yeah.
But that's a scream.
Yeah. Free marijuana. And that was it. And the judge, Schwartz was his name, and he had a reputation of doing whatever the Bush people wanted done. And so that's why he was giving my thing.
So, just again, the stunning lack of awareness from these people, like, you don't think that's what's going on currently with the current administration? They don't have a Justice Department that's doing whatever they want and a bunch of judges that they are doing whatever they want. Biden was vice president for 8 years under Obama. You don't think he appointed a lot of judges in that time?
Because when I went to court, they were saying things, you know, they were reading off the charges. And I'm trying to be as honest as I can. And when they said that I own the company, I had to correct him and say, no, I don't. And so they had to stop the whole proceedings.
Here you go.
Just a quick break here. 10 years ago, maybe not 10, maybe 20 years ago, 20 years ago, actually, 20 years ago, Chong was being arrested for selling bongs on the internet. Now he's on a live streamed show that's widely seen all over the world, smoking marijuana in public. It's a beautiful world we live in. And I just say all this too, just to remind you that this is something that kind of I thought about as I was compiling these clips a lot. No matter what the politics are of the day, the vast public sentiment will always prevail. And, you know, with marijuana is a good example of that. Gay marriage is a good example of that. Anything that the public widely backs enough, it doesn't matter how many interests are aligned against it, it will eventually prevail.
And say, well, just a minute. We agreed that you're going to plead guilty. And so they were doing this.
It's so Soviet.
Huh?
Yeah.
So Soviet,
Yeah,
right?
that's what it
Listen
was.
to that.
They needed a face for their campaign because they were going after paraphernalia on the internet.
Right.
And they needed a face.
That's so Soviet. They do not see the parallels to what the current administration is doing here
Yeah.
today.
Right.
And,
Enter the face.
and the fact that
We just talked about the O'Malley thing. It's so crazy.
and the name Chong didn't help. You know, because you know, when they see Chong right away, they think Chinese. You know,
Yeah.
That's what I think.
yeah, and that's what the court, everybody else. And so when they're going after someone, Chong was perfect.
And you think they wanted to get Chinese more than...
Well, the Chinese name didn't help. You know, who is this guy?
But all the Chinese always come up to
we
them.
weren't
How
even
come your name
fear-mongering
Chong?
about China back then.
I'm Chinese.
Yeah.
No,
I mean,
no,
I don't know if even the Bushes were going after the Chinese
I don't
in
know.
2004. I mean, China, the country, I've complained about this many times on my other show. I don't want to get too political, but like one of the problems with the left, I think, is that they see everything through the prism of race. So they're way too easy on China,
Yeah.
which does horrible fucking things.
Okay, I have to cut in here because again, this is the boomer mentality. Like, oh, the young left, they just don't. Bro, you are the one who sees China through a fucked up lens. All you guys see China through the lens of the fucking corporate media that's like, oh, China's out to get us. China has made literally no aggressive moves toward us, but these guys can look down on the younger generation who's better informed than them and go, oh, these dummies, these dumb kids, they don't have any beefs with China. Look in the mirror, Bill Maher.
Horrible,
all the time.
illiberal, dictatorial, anti-freedom, anti-human things.
They would run over a guy with a tank on TV. You know?
Yes,
They went.
They run over a guy with a tank. you know?
yeah, they did.
The Chinese, like, listen to these fucking, and again, I love these guys, no disrespect, but it's just, it's so telling of the bubble that they live in. I'm gonna bring in a comment here from Truth Violates Community Guidelines. He says, guess they're not aware people get visited by feds for social media posts. Happened many times now. Yeah. And like they're saying with China ran over a guy with a tank. Are you watching what's going on in the world right now, guys? Like, have you seen any of the footage of what's going on in the Middle East or, you know, Eastern Europe, for example? Any of those conscription videos? Like, that's all our money doing that. But they're like, oh, China ran over someone with a tank. They're so terrible. Civil rights violations. Also, the Tiananmen Square thing that they're talking about is kind of debunked propaganda now. Anyway, let them finish.
Right.
Yes.
But, you know, because it could be seen as racist, you know, they wouldn't say, for example, that the COVID...
Okay, just one more quick aside here. Fuck you, Bill Maher. Oh, therefore they don't want to be seen as racist. So this is the same guy who's like, you're an anti-Semite if you have anything to say that's negative about Israel. Fuck you, Bill Maher. Oh my God. the lack of self-awareness.
Virus escaped from a lab. And it wasn't even accusing China of doing it on purpose,
No.
which you could. It's possible.
No, again, and this is the other thing that these dipshits miss. The fact that the virus was in China is irrelevant. Everything the goddamn USA makes is made in fucking China. Even viruses now, because it was us who funded it. It wasn't like a Chinese conspiracy to get us. It was the United States making something shitty in China like we do all the time and have done for, since fucking we started shipping all our labor over there for cheap shit.
I don't think it was, but I do think it escaped from a lab.
Yeah.
I mean,
Or a wet market.
that's the other possibility.
That's the other possibility.
So Bill Maher kind of makes the safe John Stewart
And it
point.
could be that,
And it could
but
be.
I have a
The point
feeling
Stewart
in
made on
50
Colbert
years,
Show.
people will look back and they will say, wait a minute, I wasn't around at the time. Are you telling me that the virus escaped from the one place in China that was working on the virus?
He tied a
And,
bunch of
and
sheets
people
together.
at the
Rich.
time were like debating what it
where it
was.
come from.
I feel it will look obvious.
Yeah. I
But anyway,
don't know.
These guys are like, oh, I
Chong,
ain't touching that.
getting back to your story. So they wanted to get you for so many things.
Yeah, and they did.
Chinese, but
Yeah.
but mostly distraction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you harbor bitterness toward the
No,
Bush
no.
family? No,
Oh, actually,
no.
No, it was a life. It was a life changer for me. No, it was. Well, I had hung with Timothy Leary, and Tim.
I
was-
did too. You know that chair over there?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, we're gonna cut out there because then they get into like Bill Maher's like, "Ooh, a lot of these clips are great," and then Bill Maher goes off on some LA side thing about like, well, I know this guy and we did this back then and and it's like, yeah, dude, who cares, Bill Maher? One of the things I was just thinking about though is if you've ever seen some of those old Cheech and Chong movies, like Up in Smoke, for example, the song "Earache My Eye," like they were like way ahead of the curve too on like kind of like trans, like gay stuff. Like my mom was talking to me, trying to tell me how to live. My daddy, he did so because I wear my sister's clothes. That kind of shit. They were kind of pushing the boundaries, albeit probably to be funny, but they were out there back before it was safe, I guess, is the point I'm making. So this next bit, they talk about weed and Chinese healthcare. And this is actually really interesting. It goes back to what I was saying at the beginning here about how people that smoke marijuana have been advocates for marijuana over the years, like Willie Nelson and Cheech and Chong, look great in their 80s.
I think pesticides, fungus.
Yeah. all that shit.
I mean, it's probably not great for our bodies to be putting smoke in them.
Yeah, probably not.
Right. I mean, just common sense.
The Chinese feel it's okay.
Oh, always with the Chinese.
Hey,
Kidding.
also, if you look at the Chinese population, generally much healthier than the United States population. So I would actually listen to the Chinese on this.
5,000 years ago,
Maybe that's where the virus came from.
5,000 years ago, they wrote in the I Ching that they use cannabis to combat cancer, because back in the day, the emperors paid the doctors to keep them healthy, but if they got sick and they, for one reason, died, they would kill the doctors.
That's an extreme version.
So if I was like a hack journalist, I would take this clip and be like, Bill Maher and Cheech and Chong advocate for killing doctors. Listen to what they say here. This is actually really good.
But that model is something that not only is discussed as something we should do, but we should do.
Yeah.
We should incentivize health. Keep the patient healthy, you get more money.
Yeah.
Don't do that, and we kill you.
You
I like
kill
the
you.
Chinese
I
model.
like it.
You
It's
know what? I
simple.
like it.
I like it.
All
You
of a
know
sudden,
that the
Bill Maher
Chinese
goes for it.
invented the penis?
The penis?
Oh, I stepped on his joke. Listen to his
Kill
joke.
you.
You
I like
kill
the
you.
Chinese
I
model.
like it.
You
It's
know what? I
simple.
like it.
I like it.
You know that the Chinese invented the penis?
the penis?
That's kind of funny. So just to close this out, I got a couple of clips of them talking about Trump. And again, this is an area where these guys really illustrate their complete lack of self-awareness.
With pictures of their pets going, it It was the funniest thing I saw all year.
I've been enjoying the Trump follies. You know, the comedians and all the material that Trump's generated.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, you can't. He's been.
He's going to be. But there should be a monument made for Trump. Like if there is really God and a justice in this world,
There's not.
Trump will be sentenced to Guantanamo.
Again, I love you, Chong, but that is just a really out of touch statement, man. You were just talking about the Bush administration unfairly prosecuting you for selling bongs, you know, making an example out of you. And it's pretty clear, I think, at this point that Trump is being made an example of. And it's because of the partisan walls that, you know, people that have this kind of wealth and the ability to kind of like live freely and just kind of absorb whatever the corporate media kind of spews. They're just walled into this partisan viewpoint where they don't see how hypocritical they are.
Life, but there they'll build the biggest sand trap, golf.
When you go to Guantanamo,
That's all he's got. He's got just a sand trap.
sir. When you go to Guantanamo, do they give you one of those ass pillows? Because
No one gives them to you.
So this last clip is probably the best one where they talk about the election, the coming election. And again, just, I guess I shouldn't say it's the best one. It just kind of is the most blatant illustration of what I just said about what a constructed bubble people like this live in. And they view everything through this very curated partisan lens, if you will. But let's talk about
The kingdom.
yeah,
And they all go through that period. You know, look at Bush, or look at Trump, and all those guys are, you know, the lion in winter right now is what we're seeing, but a crazy version of it. I mean, it's like,
yeah, but he's not. Trump ain't trying to invade anybody.
I'll give him a chance.
You got to give Bill Maher some credit too, because as I've said before, he has probably the most valid reason of any TV pundit to hate Trump because Trump sued him for a joke. But he even comes down on the side of rationality sometimes on the Trump thing, surprisingly.
We did. He was president for 4 years. I mean,
Yeah.
nobody hates Trump more than me, but he didn't, you know. His instinct is the opposite. He wants to get out of Ukraine.
Yeah.
He wants to just give it to Putin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, this is that press-built black or white mentality. You either keep killing Ukrainians until they're all dead, or you give Ukraine to Putin. Putin.
Yeah.
His big secret plan.
Yeah.
Yeah. My secret plan. We give up. Yeah. My plan to end the war. We give up. Okay. You know.
And that's what it
And to live in this bubble, you have to only view you've only known about Ukraine since 2022. You don't know about any of the history.
his plan is. I mean, dude,
I've been enjoying the Trump. Oh my God, eating they're eating your dog.
Oh, it's
fuck. It was like watching a marlin about to
like-
take that bait. You know, like what was gonna go? He's gonna the big mackerel out there. You know, half a mackerel.
well. I said on my show Friday. I think he's a toast.
Yeah,
I'm putting down my marker
yeah.
that he's going to lose this election. I've always been a pessimist about him. This is the first time.
He knows he's going to lose.
I don't know that he's going to lose. I do think that the chances are very likely, but based on what I've been showing you about how good the press is at convincing people of complete falsehoods, like, again, to go back to this one more time before we close out in this last segment, this was the press a year ago. Republicans float a quiet conspiracy theory that Biden won't be on the ballot. And today, that conspiracy theory is conspiriality. Biden is not on the ballot. So these guys, they have to live in this world where they're getting their information from a polluted well. All of it.
With his luck, he could.
See, Chong injects.
Well, I think it'll be tied as the polls always are on election day. The American people just love to play a game of chicken, and they always will.
Yeah.
But they're like
Not
people
true.
who shop.
The press manufactures a horse race because there's so much money in
We
elections.
sell papers or newspapers or internet or something.
Chong
You got
gets
breaking
it.
news.
Right.
And that's what it is, breaking news.
But I think at the last minute when people go into the booth this time,
They'll do it right.
they just have had enough.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, he has a strong base, but
No.
Had enough of what? Is Trump running the country right now? Like, one of the things that they point out with the immigration debate is that Trump shot down the bill. Like, he forced Congress to not vote for the bill that they had. That shows a lot of power that he wields outside of office. They're in control of the government right now, and Trump is more powerful than they are. That's what people are fed up with it. People are sick of it. Sick of Trump not being president? Like, what are you talking about? Kamala Harris is the vice president right now. If they're sick of anything, they're sick of this.
They're very strong, and it's not going to be a walk, but at the end of the day, it'll be just enough. That's the marker.
I don't know. I think they're going to give people the polls they have.
So here's the thing I was telling a friend of mine who is kind of a Republican Trump supporter type guy, because he used to tell me when Obama was running that, people won't vote for a black guy. When they go into the voting booth, you just wait and see. People say they will in polls, but they won't vote for a black guy once the curtains are closed and no one can see what they're doing. I think it's a similar dynamic with Trump. I think because I see Harris Waltz signs all over the place where I live, but I don't see many Trump signs. In fact, I haven't seen any. And I think it's because most people know that if you wave that flag, you're going to be called a racist. And so I think it's kind of like a reverse situation with Trump, where I think a lot of people who won't say out loud that they'll vote for Trump will when push comes to shove.
I seen
will be when he gets sentenced.
No, there's no sentencing anymore. Oh yeah, he does get sentenced, right?
Yes, he does.
Oh right, in the hush money one.
He does.
Yeah, he gets sentenced in a case that is basically the same thing Bill Clinton, who you all love, did.
All right. Well, I don't want to base my happiness based on how unhappy he is.
Yeah.
I feel like,
No, you
get out of my life, man.
You got to accept him for what he was. He was.
I don't accept him. I completely don't accept him. But I also don't accept letting his psyche control my psyche.
Think what he did. He did things that no one could do.
Yes, true.
What?
Oh, yes.
No one
mostly for the worst.
No one could do. No,
yes.
The best.
Honestly, that's the argument I would make about Barack Obama. Barack Obama got away with things that George Bush couldn't have gotten away with.
He got Joe Biden elected.
This is good.
No one else could have done that.
That's funny. That's not a compliment to Joe Biden, but I
Chong every once in a while with the truth bomb. And that's why I think it's kind of depressing that these guys kind of live in that shit lib world, because it sounds like you listen to them talk like what Chong just said, and they're not stupid. They're not dumb people. They're just wrapped up in that propaganda blanket.
I mean, I'm not going to argue with it either.
And
it's
he's
true.
going to get
you're right.
Kamala elected too. He'll be responsible for the first black woman president of America, thanks to Donald Trump.
You're right.
I saw a tweet this morning that made a lot of sense. Like, a woman actually was like, can you imagine? I think it was Marianne Williamson actually was like, wouldn't it be terrible if Kamala Harris was the first female president? Oh my God, no one liked Kamala Harris in the Democratic primary. She's one of the first people to do. This. I don't have to go through all this shit. Just keep listening.
So just give it to Putin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
his big secret plan.
Yeah.
Sorry, I bet.
That's funny. That's not a compliment to Joe Biden, but I
Thanks to Donald Trump.
you're right.
That's it. And we'll owe it all to him.
I sense you don't like him. Well, I don't like him either. And I don't care who knows it.
I didn't like him either.
I think he's kind of a buffoon, if I'm going to be completely honest.
Yeah.
Comedy god.
He's a comedy, yeah. Nobody ever provided more material because
Nobody.
unlike
Nobody.
other presidents who had one or two things about them that were obviously fun,
It's even more, just to break again for a second, it's even more stunning to watch this after watching that interview Trump just did with Andrew Schultz and his guys. Because these guys,
Bush was stupid and Clinton was horny. Like, this guy's everything. He's both stupid and crazy and horny
Everything.
and fat and wants to fuck his
And he
daughter.
looks like the devil.
And and has this preposterous turkey sandwich on his head, and it's his real hair.
Yeah.
That's even worse. It's not a wig. It would somehow be better, don't you think?
And he stinks. He stinks.
Stinks.
He's putrid.
This is
You mean-
his latest theory.
Hmm?
Your latest story.
No,
about Trump.
it's been proven. They got
They
internet.
got the smell.
again, this is good because Bill Maher actually injects a little reality.
What? He stinks.
Trump, yeah.
Like physically.
He has to wear diapers. He shits himself.
Oh, come on.
Who?
Where are you getting this?
On the internet.
On the internet. You sound like them. This
Well,
is my
don't tell
problem
me
with
that.
America. But everybody's fucking nuts. Oh, Christ. On the internet. Well, that wraps that up.
We'll take that cue from Bill Maher. That wraps that up. But that's a good interview. Cheech and Chong, again, legendary figures as far as I'm concerned. I don't fault them for their Trump derangement because everyone has it who lives in the kind of, encapsulated media bubble that people like them do.